Hello everyone, welcome to the game exhibit. My name is Mikey B, and these are my first impressions of Far Cry 4.
Should I stay or should I go?
Far Cry 4 features guns, goats, and mountains. And that's about it. Far Cry 4 is a game set in a fictional Tibetan setting called Kyrat, that's the one, which is ruled by a self-appointed tyrannical warlord king called Pagan Min,
whose name I still don't know, and I, of course, Pagan Min,
who vibes very similarly to like a vibe that you get when you think about Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un and the craziness going on in the North Korean dictatorship. It's that sort of weird control of the area, and of course there is an oppressed people, part of this area, called the Golden Path, whom you join up with and fight alongside to attempt to free and liberate the place. In terms of the story, it is very similar to Far Cry 3. You have a raving lunatic psychopath in charge of a horde of soldiers that is oppressing an area that's in charge, and you have to go in and get rid of them, basically. Without spoiling the story, talking about the characters, the main character you play as is in Kyrat because they are scattering, or supposed to be scattering, the ashes of their mother, whom he comes to find out was actually part of an uprising which you get dragged into later on in the game, like within the first 5 minutes of the game. But something that hit me when I was playing the game to begin with is within the first 5 minutes of the game you can pick up an AK-47 and just start running and gunning people down, and it never explains the backstory of the character to the point where, you know, how is this guy, like, he's literally on holiday sort of thing to do a last service for his mother, and somehow he turns into a Rambo-esque character.
There's a gun underneath the dashboard! Use it! Are we safe? Probably not.
But I do appreciate the fact that it's what you could probably call a power fantasy, like you're Rambo and you're mowing down a bunch of dudes, avenging oppressed people, you know, like being a superhero and all that. But it was a little bit jarring without has this guy got military background, etc. But one thing I did like about the fact that it didn't really mention anything about the protagonist's abilities to be, you know, like, he literally mows down hundreds of people. You personally are killing, you know, literally hundreds of people are dying at this guy's hands, and it doesn't really explain how he's like this. He's like a special forces dude. But the guy on the radio, if you're listening in one of the cars, he'll actually start talking about that. Like, this guy is, you know, they poke fun at it, saying that he's a natural serial killer.
Now, word is that Azhagari, the most famous prodigal son in the country, is personally responsible for this, which is a little surprising considering the dude is an ABCD. Yeah, he just grew up in the States, he has no military training, and he's really good at killing. Isn't that crazy?
I find those little details funny. It's like it's taking the mick out of itself, not taking it too seriously, but I did find it a little bit weird to begin with that the guy is, you know, I'm on holiday, now I'm shooting people with an AK, and there's no reaction, there's no, like, transition to, like, oh shit, what the hell am I doing, what the hell have I just done? But again, this is kind of subjective. It's up to you if you find that sort of thing jarring or not. Alright, so now let's move on to talking about some of the gunplay of the game, since the game is a first-person shooter in an open world, so it's kind of an important part of the mechanics. Yeah, and I also want to put as a side note, I'm using an Xbox 360 controller for the game on a PC, which I know is committing high treason and blasphemy towards the PC Master Race, but I will explain why I prefer a Xbox 360 controller later on. The first thing I noticed early on in the game is that the game makes the weapons feel like they're heavy, and they feel powerful. They feel like they've got a kick. And they're satisfying to shoot. The sound quality and the asset quality is amazing. Like, the gun models are super highly detailed. The texture work I personally think is amazing, and the sound assets used are incredible. Like the detail, if you've got good bassy headphones on, you feel like you are a wrecking machine when you're shooting an AK-47, spraying and praying at a crowd. So yeah, that kind of leads me on to the reason why I prefer an Xbox controller to a keyboard and mouse when playing this sort of game, and that's because of, just to be honest, it's the vibration functionality of the controller, which is completely subjective. That probably adds a ton to how the weapons feel. Like the feedback of shooting the weapons through and the vibration of the controller, I imagine, contributes quite a lot to the placebo effect of the weapons being heavy and with a lot of kick. And from my current knowledge of keyboards and mice, or whatever you want to call them, I don't think you can have the same sort of feeling from their keyboard and mouse, even though they are much more accurate. And playing online competitively, I obviously use a keyboard and mouse. In story-driven first-person shooters like this, I enjoy using an Xbox 360 pad. And this is again something that's a bit subjective, that in my first impressions of the game is that some of the most awesome things that they got right in this game is they make a 50 caliber machine gun that's on top of what they call a Technic, which is a pickup truck with a mounted machine gun on it. They feel like they've got a hell of a punch to them, and when you just spray and pray at a load of enemies coming over a hill or attacking somewhere or in a roadblock, you feel epic when you're spraying them. They just feel really good, and yeah, I'll include some clips of that as well. As for the overall gameplay of the game and the objectives, you will find it very reminiscent of Far Cry 3 if you played Far Cry 3, and of the overall theme of objectives that Ubisoft games recently have been heading down. You'll find that you have to climb towers to unlock more areas of the map, and to unlock visible areas on the map where you can go for activities. And this is a mechanic we've seen in Ubisoft games since the original Assassin's Creed game, and having to repeat it like over and over again, it is kind of getting a little bit tedious, to the point where I set aside like a time to grind at them, so I'd unlock all the visible map that I could at the moment, and then take a break and then go back to doing the story missions and carry on. The hunting mechanic is also back in the game, and this is something I personally really enjoy doing, particularly with the bow, going out bow hunting. And it's got a cool mechanic where if you manage to get a kill with the bow and arrow, which feels pretty satisfying when you manage to do it instead of using a machine gun or a sniper rifle, you get 2 pelts or 2 skins from the animal that you've hunted. So it kind of rewards you for putting in that extra effort for using the bow. And you then use this to craft your different holsters, but because the main character is extremely vain in what his holsters are made out of, you have to go and chase down all these different exotic animals, rather than hunting down. What you could potentially do is just make the holsters out of deer skins or something, or whatever animal you manage to catch. But no, this guy wants to wear all these fancy animals all over his body, so yeah, you have to chase down everything from honey badgers to it's what essentially deers and all sorts of animals that have different names. Now, one thing that I found really cool is that the animals are much more, they're different compared to other games that I've played. Like, this setting has never been done before, obviously, so you have things like Asian rhinos and Asian elephants and all these, you know, Tibetan wolves and all these different wild animals like tigers and jaguars and are there cheetahs? I can't remember off the top of my head if there's cheetahs, but there's definitely these giant cat animals, and yeah, they can be pretty damn terrifying when you're walking through the jungle at night and you suddenly get pounced on and you have to struggle, which 9 times out of 10, every time it's happened to me, it happened to me once, I think I've got footage of it anyway, where I was on the middle of the road with a group of the Golden Path. We just secured an outpost and I got mauled to death by a jaguar in front of them, and they did shit all to help. And also, yeah, the animals attack you. You drive next to a rhino and he will chase your car.
Approaching them. Any orders received from Royal Army patrols must be obeyed promptly. Failure to comply may lead to severe consequences.
And it's some of the coolest shit because it feels like you're playing an action movie, and yeah, you'll see what I mean in the footage. Oh, and I forgot to mention before that the outpost system that was in Far Cry 3 is also present, where you have to go around and kill every enemy soldier that's in an outpost to then liberate it, to which you can then unlock a safe house and some more missions and activities to do if you so choose. As for the main story missions themselves, there are now missions called Balance of Power missions, where you essentially get to listen to a scenario or something that's happened, or talk to the leaders of your faction that you're fighting for, the Golden Path, and you'll then be given an option to listen to either side of the story and pick which character you want to follow, because the Golden Path is run by 2 very different characters. There's one called Sabal and Amita, and you essentially have to choose which leader you want to listen to, since they've got different ways of approaching different situations. To put it into perspective, there was a camp being attacked and a camp that had been already attacked, and essentially Sabal wanted me to go and help defend the camp that was being attacked to save the lives of more soldiers, and then Amita had a different plan to go to an abandoned camp where there was intel hidden that would then show whether there was going to be a bigger attack later on. So you had to weigh and balance which one you wanted to do. Do you want to go and save the people like right now, or do you want to put them, you know, essentially letting them die to go and get the intel, or do you go and help these people and then lose the intel? And it was one of those things where I was struggling, because as a strategy game player first, I'm always for intel, but then I was like, oh my god, there's these people gonna die, and yeah, there was a little bit of a hesitation before I made my decision, which was interesting, instead of just being told go and collect 10 bear asses. And I liked that. I thought it was a bit more interesting than just being dished out, you know, go here, blow up this, kill this dude, whatever. It was more interesting, and it also adds to the replayability of the game, in my opinion, because some of these missions that I've done, I will probably want to play through the game again to find out what, you know, the alternative is. Is the new dialogue? Does it change the story arc? I don't know, but yeah, I found it interesting that there's a choice, and you might be interested in that too. As I said earlier in the video, the game is very similar to Far Cry 3. Along the lines of upgrading, you have your own upgrade thing, which allows you to do different takedowns, allows you to collect more leaves for your crafting, the syringes, which again are very similar to Far Cry 3. You can craft the hunting syringes and the health syringes, but this time the health syringes craft automatically once you collect 2 green leaves, which I think is really, really neat. So all that you've got to do is look around for green leaves on the map and you can craft yourself health syringes. Now, as I found in previous Far Cry games, in particular off the top of my head, Far Cry 2, the driving mechanics of the game feel really good. Like, the cars feel weighty, they feel like they can do damage, and they feel like like a proper metal cage. Like, I don't know how they managed to make the driving feel good, but the one thing I will criticize is, you know, the vehicles feel heavy and they, you know, they feel good to drive. But I will say that the control scheme, that the entire car's direction, like the way it's controlled, is based off the movement of one analog stick on the controller, and I guess that's because you can shoot and drive at the same time. And there is a new feature called the auto drive feature, which if you set a waypoint on the map, it will drive along the road. Obviously this doesn't actually work in the jungle. If you're off the map, you have to be on one of the main roads of the map to use the auto drive feature. And this feature exists, if you're wondering, so that you can basically aim 365 degrees around you and shoot enemies that are either chasing you or trying to ram you off the road. And yeah, I find it really helpful sometimes, and yeah, I think it's quite good. But I will say that the one stick on the analog, one analog stick to control the entire direction of the car, how fast it's going, which way it's turning, has resulted in me quite a few times driving into places where I didn't want to drive and or falling off cliffs. So yeah. Also, the ability to fly in this game is quite a lot easier to access than it was in Far Cry 3, in the way that you'll find little miniature helicopters. I can't remember what they're called. I think they're called gyrocopters, and they're one-seat little lawnmower engine helicopter type things, and you can fly about the map. And when I was going around taking out outposts and unlocking the towers of the map, I used one of these to fly about, and it is quite a lot of fun to fly, navigating around the place and having a look at the amazing views. And another thing that I kind of think is cool about the little gyrocopters is that you can stack yourself full of grenades, and you can also shoot from them, so you can be like this really annoying, deadly fly in the air. So you're hovering about, and if there's a group of enemies below you, you can throw grenades at them, and it's quite fun being a bomber in that. And yeah, I really enjoy it. Oh, and that leads me to another thing with the gyrocopters, and something that I enjoy doing, is that there's a whole event system in the game, which I should have mentioned earlier during the missions talking, but there's a random event thing that happens called a karma mission, or a karma event, where, for example, your Golden Path allies could be getting mauled by a tiger, or they could be getting attacked by the Pagan Min's army, or the Royal Army it's called, or you could be told to take out a Royal Army officer or something. It's just like a random event generator that happens, and if you do this you unlock karma levels and XP. But one thing in particular I like doing with the gyrocopter is you fly over where it tells you to assassinate someone, and then you throw a grenade down, and it's like a, you know, you're a dive bomber or whatever. And I thought it was really fun to do that. Anyway, I didn't really talk much about the characters of the game, but the characters overall in the story arc so far that I'm up to, which is about 8 or 9 hours, I'd say 8 or 9 hours, possibly 10 hours into the game so far. Can't remember off the top of my head, but I am quite far in. But the voice acting and animations for the game are really, really good. Like the cutscenes that happen, or whether they're in-game rendered, I'm not sure, but the facial animations are extremely high detail and realistic, and if you've probably got a good GPU, it will probably look Uncanny Valley sort of shit. I think the voice acting overall is phenomenal. You believe these characters are who they say they are. I find Pagan Min to be a really interesting character as well. He's like he's a tyrannical king who's also obviously batshit insane, and he's like, what would you call it? He's one of these vain sort of, almost like a Hollywood sort of caricature of somebody who's vain.
Very simple, but you know, if you give food to monkeys, they just throw their shit at each other. You know? Oh, would you hold this? For just a moment, I want to get a little picture right into the camera. There we are.
But he's also like demented, like deeply evil. Like for example, you get a call right at the beginning of the game when you escape, because he cooked you a meal, and he said it's for you to stay there, and of course you escape instead of eating the meal he made. And he says that he killed the chef and the chef's family, or he couldn't remember, and he was so nonchalant about it. And then he goes on to say he kidnapped the person and his family anyway.
RJ, my boy, are you busy? You don't mind me calling, do you? Fantastic. You really are an excellent listener. Look, no hard feelings about the crab rangoon. I know it's not to everyone's taste. But you'll be pleased to know I had the chef executed for his incompetence. Or was it his family we killed? Regardless, next time I can promise you a better spread. That's the last time I'm kidnapping a fucking TV celebrity chef.
So, yeah, he's a bit of a crazy character. Very, very reminiscent of Vass. Like, not reminiscent, what would I say? He's on the level of Vass and from Far Cry 3, who, again, Far Cry dudes who write the stories, they know how to make a good villain, that's for sure. Who, you know, you want to stop. They know how to make a crazy bastard. So I think that the characters in that case are really, really good. And on that side, Far Cry 4 nails it, in my opinion. Now to talk about the performance I've personally had with the game on my computer specs, and they'll be on the screen above. My computer, just as a rough background, is 3 years old. I probably need to build a new one, but the graphics card is still quite a good one. It's a 7970, and yeah, I've mostly been getting up to 60 frames per second when playing, and that was when I used the auto-detected settings for the game. But I will admit that the game frequently when you're driving will drop significantly in the frame rate department. And I found as well that if you're on a quad bike, the performance will drop, but it's never dropped below 30 frames per second. I must say that it drops to 30 frames per second, and that's usually when I'm on a quad bike. And for some reason I reckon it's because the quad bike moves a lot faster than any of the vehicles, and it has to render in advance. So I imagine that might have something to do with it, because every time I've been driving a 4x4 that's slower in the game, I've not had such an impact on the frame rate. But yeah, that's obviously varies between different people. That was also it auto-detected the settings, but it was all on high. Everything was set to high mostly, and I could have probably got a higher frame rate out of it if I wanted to, if I turned down the specs. But I wanted the game to look pretty, or as pretty as I could make it without, yeah, totally making it like a slideshow. But anyway, the game looks amazing, and from my experience so far, it's been playing quite well on my computer. But I recommend that anyone who intends to get Far Cry on PC, go through the specs and see if you can find videos of people playing the game on a similar rig to yours, if that's possible. I also found in the game that there are a few little glitches and bugs and weird AI quirks that you'll notice when playing. For example, the AI pathfinding won't detect a oncoming car, so you'll end up having the AI running each other over. So you'll have a Golden Path Jeep or just a civilian car going past.
I'm glad you're here. Stock changing. Was here today, maybe gone tomorrow.
And because the AI won't move out the way of the road, they'll get ran over. And also, you'll also get weird things like the AI provoking animals. Like, for example, there was a load of rhinos that were sitting off side of the road, and the Golden Path people were supposed to be just walking past, but instead they start shooting at them. And obviously the rhinos get pissed off and end up trampling them to death, and then because the rhino's pissed off and I'm nearby, the rhino then tramples me to death, and there was nothing I could do about it. So yeah, the AI can be a little bit glitchy and weird sometimes, or just downright stupid. But yeah, but in my opinion, it's not something that is a major issue and doesn't really put me off the game at all, because it only happens like once in a blue moon, and I thought it would get an honourable mention. And now down to the conclusion of my first impressions. Would I recommend this game to somebody? And I honestly think, yes, I would. It's been really fun for me when I've been playing it. If you enjoyed Far Cry 3, which I personally did, I love all the Far Cry games so far, you will probably really enjoy Far Cry 4 if you're into that. Far Cry 2 was in Africa, I believe. Far Cry 3 was in the Pacific. Far Cry 1 was in the Pacific. And yeah, now we're in Tibet. And I personally find the game extremely fun. The guns feel really good. The story is good. The voice acting is great. The animation quality is amazing. The setting overall is unique and interesting and hasn't been done before. But yeah, overall I would recommend this game if you're interested in Far Cry as a whole. It's not obviously too far venturing off the path from Far Cry 3. Just bear that in mind. And I hope you found this video informative or helpful in any way and entertaining. And if you fancy sticking around for more videos like this, because I'm going to start focusing on continuing these sort of high effort, high quality videos like editorial pieces and first impressions videos of games that I enjoy, feel free to subscribe and leave a rating on the video, and let me know if you have any questions about the game that I could possibly answer if you're looking at buying it in the comment section below. Let me know what your opinion is of the game. Feel free to share your experience with the game in the comment section below. It'd be good to make a consumer advocate environment here so we can share information amongst each other to let others know what's what. And I hope you have a fantastic day. My name's Mikey B, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye, and thank you very much for watching. Also, since this is my first episode of this series, please feel free to leave criticisms and feedback in the comment section too. I'll see you then. Bye bye.